And welcome back to another Oak Ridge High School swim meet. Tonight, the Oak Ridge Wildcats will be going up against the Hardin Valley Academy Hawks. And for the first event of the night, we have the women's 200-meter medley relay. Okay, for Oak Ridge, in lane 2, we have Bronham, Cherry, Wooten, and Thornton. In lane 4, we have Wynnum, Fisher, Kendall, and Hodge. In lane 6, we have Shea, Delmau, Burge, Perez.
Before this event starts, we would like to thank some of our sponsors, the Mail Center ETC, all your packaging and shipping needs. Thank you so much for sponsoring us.
And they're off. Appears lane 4 taking the lead. And lane 4 has their second swimmer that is Fisher.
That's not their second, that's their third swim, right?
Appears that it's actually their fourth swimmer now in the water. That is Hodge. The swimmer we just saw swimming was Kendall. And just like that, Oak Ridge is able to grab a first place in lane 4. Lane 5 for Hardin Valley just now getting their final swimmer in. Looks like lane 3 for Hardin Valley is able to grab second. And lane 2 for Oak Ridge able to grab third. And that concludes Heat 1 of Event 1. We'll now be setting up for Heat 2, which has Oak Ridge in lane 2. That is Toth, Saunders, R. O'Neill, and Emily Samsel. Or no, it appears we're moving on to seems there might be some confusion on deck. Nope, yes, we are moving on to Heat 2 of event number 1. And they're off. Seems Oak Ridge is the only team swimming in this heat. This is just going to be sort of like a way for them to get their best time, just to improve. So while they're doing this, we'd like to thank some of our sponsors. We'd like to thank WIT Services, whatever it takes. And we'd like to thank Stealth Forge Sharpening, wicked sharp edges. Thank you. And it appears the third swimmer is in for Oak Ridge. That is O'Neill. And the final swimmer is in for Oak Ridge. That concludes event 1. We'll now be moving on to event 2, the men's 200-meter medley relay. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Vo, Venata, Hodge, and Millet. In lane 4, we have Cho, Suddeth, Brown, and Sukoff. And in lane 7, we have P. Grubb, C. Acevedo, Greenhaug, and C. O'Neill. The 7th lane is actually our Oak Ridge Middle School swimmers swimming tonight. Right now, it's looking like it's neck and neck between lanes 3 and 4. Lane 4 gets the turnaround first, though, now a little bit ahead of lane 3. And lane 4, Oak Ridge gets back first. Their second swimmer is in first, quickly followed by Hardin Valley lane 3's second swimmer. Suddeth, Oak Ridge lane 4, keeping just slightly ahead of his competition in lane 3. And Oak Ridge lane 4's third swimmer is in. That is Teus Brown. Teus just now coming back up after turning around there. And Oak Ridge's final swimmer is in lane 4. That is Zukov. And Oak Ridge is able to pull in a first place in lane 4. Hardin Valley lane 3 able to grab second. And right now it's looking like Hardin Valley lane 5 is going to be grabbing third. As the final swimmers come in, that concludes event 2. Before the next event begins, Christian, any words from our sponsors?
Yes, I would like to thank Nutritious Foundations, Sustainable Weight Loss Solutions, and Pro Master Trim. You dream it, we build it. Thank you so much for sponsoring us.
And now on to event number 3. This is the women's 200-meter freestyle. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Ben Thornton. In lane 4, we have Rosalie Windham. In lane 6, we have Samaya Wooten. And in lane 7, for the middle school, we have Olivia Foy McDaniel. This is neck and neck, but it looks like Oak Ridge lane 4 is able to pull ahead. Lane 3, Hardin Valley, is just barely pulling ahead. Hardin Valley, lane 3, has the first place right now. And Hardin Valley lane 3 is able to pull in the first place. Oak Ridge lane 4, that's Windham, able to pull in second. It's looking like once again Hardin Valley lane 5 is going to be able to pull in third. Lane 2 right on her tail though. As our final swimmer come in, that concludes event 3. I'd like to thank some of our sponsors. First off, the Daughters of the Earth Company, created with Earth in mind, and the Children's Museum of Oak Ridge, learning fun for all ages. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And as I said, that concludes event 3. We now move on to event 4, the men's 200-meter freestyle. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Chase Ryan. In lane 4, we have Steven Zukoff. And in lane 7, for the middle school, we have Connor O'Neill. Lane 4, Oak Ridge off to an early lead. but it looks like lane 3 is taking over, and just as I say that, lane 4 pulls back ahead. This is going to be bouncing back and forth a lot. Oak Ridge lane 4 gets the turn off first. Oak Ridge lane 4, that is Zukov, has the lead right now. But lane 3 is relentless on his tail. And it looks like lane 3, Hardin Valley, is pulling ahead. They're neck and neck here. Zukov's taking back the lead, but it just keeps swapping off. They are top of each other now. This is going to be a close finish. Zukov's got the slight lead. It's going to come down right to here. It's going to be a very close finish. And Zukov, by maybe just more than a second, able to pull out the first place. Oak Ridge has one final swimmer out there going through one final lap. I don't know if that was a necessary lap, but it definitely shows his toughness. And that concludes event number 4. Now, before we move on to event 5, I'd like to thank some more sponsors. CS Engineering Incorporated, quality technical services for the nuclear and chemical industries since 1992. And Peggy Sells Homes. Peggy Sells Homes. We now move on to event 5, the women's 200-meter IM. For Oak Ridge, we have in lane 2, Natalie Steger, and in lane 4, Ella Kendall. There will be a second heat to this event. Looks like Oak Ridge lane 4 pulling ahead. That is Ella Kendall for Oak Ridge. Lane 4, Kendall, capitalizing on a very huge lead right now. Kendall's able to lock in first. Now going to be a race for second. And Oak Ridge Lane 2 is able to grab it. That is Natalie Stazier.
But before the second heat starts, I would like to give some thanks to some of our sponsors, Countryside Tire and Auto Service. We provide expert-friendly and knowledgeable service, and J&M's Butcher Shop.
J&M's Butcher Shop. Thank you, J&M's Butcher Shop, for the donation, as well as
Chop Shop Hair Studio, a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll.
thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And that concludes Heat 1 of event number 5. We'll now move on to Heat 2, which has middle school swimmers Rory O'Neill in lane 2 and Mason Greenhaug in lane 4. Concludes event number 5. We now begin event number 6, the men's 200 meter IM. For Oak Ridge, we have in lane 2, Colin Sutton, and in lane 4, Teus Brown. And they're off. This is close. Lane 3, right on Tejas Lane 4's tail. Usually Tejas is making very wide leads. Looks like he's got some competition this event. It might be close, but Tejas is still taking that lead. Tejas, we're now kind of seeing the lead that Tejas is known for now. Just goes to show, if he doesn't have that lead at the start, he's going to wear it into his competition by the end.
With that, Oak Ridge finishes in first, with Hardin Valley taking second and third.
And as that event ends, I'd like to thank a sponsor, the Farrell Shop, gifts, accessories, kitchenwares, and bridal registry needs. Thank you for sponsoring us tonight. And we are now beginning event number 7, the women's 50-meter freestyle. This event has 3 heats. For heat 1 for Oak Ridge, in lane 2 we have Sarah Cherry. In lane 4 we have Amelia Hodge. In lane 6 we have Rachel Branham. And in lane 7 we have Beatrice Shea from the high school. It looks like Hardin Valley lane 3 is neck and neck with Amelia Hodge in lane 4. And lane 3 is able to grab the first for Hardin Valley. Oak Ridge able to grab second and third for lane 2 and 4. And that concludes heat 1. For heat 2 for Oak Ridge, in lane 2 we have Zoe Beatty. In lane 4, E. Delmau. In lane 6, Eli Samsel. And in lane 7, Charlie Burge. They're off. Looks like lane 3 has a slightly later start, but that is not deterring them at all. And it looks like Oak Ridge Lane 4 and Oak Ridge Lane 2 were pulling ahead for that first and second spot. That is Beatty and Delmau. Oak Ridge is able to grab first and second for lanes 4 and lanes 2 respectively. And we now move on to the final heat of this event, Heat 3, where for Oak Ridge we have in lane 2, Emily Samsel. In lane 4, Gracie Saunders. And in lane 6, Lila Martin. As well in lane 7, we have Michaela Coons. Before this heat starts, though, I would like to thank some more sponsors, that being WIT Services, Whatever It Takes, and as well, Lindias Orthodontics. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And they're off. And that concludes Event 7. We now move on to Event 8, which also has multiple heats, but only 1 and 2. For Oak Ridge, in Heat 1, for Lane 2, we have Dylan Hodge. In Lane 4, we have Andrew Cho. In Lane 6, we have John Millett. And in Lane 7, we have William Shin. Looks like Lane 5, I don't know if he's just testing the waters, but accidentally got in a little too early. And they're off. Close. But it looks like it's going to be very close between Cho in Lane 4 and Hardin Valley Lane 3. But Lane 3 does pull it out and grabs first. Cho gets second for Oak Ridge. As our final swimmer comes in, that concludes Heat 1 of Event 8. And we now begin Event 2. For Oak Ridge, in Lane 2, we have Christian Acevedo. In Lane 6, we have Quentin Delmau. And in Lane 7, we have Cassius Blanco. And Lane 4, Hardin Valley gets a first. And that, as our final swimmers come in, that concludes Event 8. We will now be going on a short little break. When we return, Event 11.
While we are on break, I would like to thank a couple of sponsors: Oak Ridge Nutrition, come get your shake on; the Real Estate Office, see me for the key; and Explore Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge exploration starts here. Thank you so much for sponsoring us, and we will be back in a little bit.
While we're still on break, I've got some more ads for you. Outschool classes by Tammy W, where kids love learning. Receive $20 off your first Outschool class. And of course, Outschool.com, an innovative educational platform for live small group classes. Join at Outschool.com. We'll be right back in a little bit. Make sure you're sticking with us. to flip it on back. And we're back from the break. We're now set up for event 11, the women's 100-meter butterfly. But before we begin, during the break, we got some news. Good news for Wildcats fans. The Oak Ridge Wildcats are up by 4 at the halfway point of this meet. But we've seen some tough competition from these Hardin Valley Hawks tonight. So a 4-point lead's nothing to be comfortable with yet. Now on to who's going to be swimming in this event. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Natalie Stasher. In lane 4, Mason Fisher. And in lane 6, Smaya Wooten. There will be a second heat to this event. As we wait for the event to start, another word from our sponsors, TCDI, People Focused, Performance Driven. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. Swimmers are now lining up once again. Oak Ridge has lane 2, 4, and 6. In lane 2 is Stasier, in lane 4 is Fisher, and in lane 6 is Wooten. And there will be a second heat to this event. We're on their mark. Set, and they're off. Fisher springing into a quick lead, lane 5, right on her tail. Fisher lane 4 beginning to widen the gap. And Mason Fisher is able to pull in a first place for Oak Ridge.
And lane 2 is able to get second place for Oak Ridge.
That is Stasier once again pulling in a second place in lane 2 for Oak Ridge. Lane 3, Hardin Valley grabs third. And as our final swimmers come in, that concludes Heat 1 of Event 11. We now move on to Heat 2, which is middle school swimmers. In lane 2, we have Grubb, and in lane 4, we have Greenhouse. They will be swimming a 50-meter fly instead of the 100-meter. And they're off. As our final swimmers come in, I have another word from our sponsors. Phoenix Sign LLC. Phoenix Sign is the best deals in Knoxville, and New York Salon. Style, trends, vogue, mode. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And that concludes Heat 2 of Event 11. We now move on to Event 12, the men's 100-meter fly. For Oak Ridge, we have in lane 2, Quentin Venata, and in lane 4, Steven Zukoff. Zukoff off to a big lead here. I'll tell you that back. It's not big, but it's a significant one. Lane 3 close, but I wouldn't call it on his tail. And Zukoff is able to pull off a first place. Oak Ridge. Hardin Valley gets second in lane 3, but Oak Ridge is actually able to grab third in lane 2. That is Quentin Venata in lane 2 grabbing third for Oak Ridge. And that concludes Event 12. Before we begin Event 13, Christian, do you have a word from our sponsors?
Yes, Will's Towing, always on call, always on time, and Salvador's Lawn Care, your lawn care and landscaping needs. Thank you so much for sponsoring us.
And now on to Event 13, the women's 100-meter free. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Sarah Cherry. In lane 4, we have Ella Kendall. In lane 6, we have Finn Thornton. And in lane 7, we have Alice Perez. There will be a second heat to this event. Looking like lane 4 Oak Ridge, pulling ahead slightly. Lane 4 Oak Ridge. That is Ella Kendall currently has the lead. But Hardin Valley, lane 3, starting to overlap. Right on Kendall's tail.
Oak Ridge is able to finish in first, with Karns in second, and it looks like lane 2 is going to, lane 2 is going to get third place.
That is Sarah Cherry from Oak Ridge able to grab second, third. The second, third for lane 2. That concludes Heat 1 of Event 13. We now move on to Heat 2, where for Oak Ridge in lane 2 we have Brennan Toth. In lane 4, Emily Samsel. And in lane 6, Rory O'Neill. And lane 2 Oak Ridge, that is Brennan Toth able to grab first. And Oak Ridge, lane 6, that is Rory O'Neill able to grab second. As our final swimmer comes in, that concludes event 13. We now move on to event 14, the men's 100-meter free. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Robert Vo. In lane 4, Teus Brown. And in lane 6, Santiago Acevedo. There is a second heat to this event. Once again, swimmers are hot on Teus' tail, looking to grab a first over him. They're close, but Teus still has a lead. And once again, Teus able to grab his third first place of the night. Second individual, the first coming from a relay. As our final swimmer comes in, that concludes event 14. Before we begin event 15, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Lee and Barton DDS. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And we now begin the big one, event 15, the women's 500-meter freestyle. Bro, I feel like I'm saying this every event we come to, but this is not only a physical, but this is definitely a mental event as well. You got to know when to push and when to hold. Because you can go really all in at the start, and then near the end, you just have nothing left in you. So you got to find that balance. Swimming for Oak Ridge in this event, in lane 2, we have Rachel Bronham, and in lane 4, Amelia Hodge. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. That was actually Heat 2 for event 14. We now begin event 15, the women's 500-meter freestyle. Once again, in lane 2 for Oak Ridge, we have Rachel Branham, and in lane 4, we have Amelia Hodge. While this event rages on, another word from our sponsors. the event comes to a close, Hardin Valley is able to grab first and second. Oak Ridge able to grab third. As our final swimmer comes in to close out the event, I'd like to thank another one of our sponsors, J&C Market, all your quick stop needs, and the Grove Market, your needs all in one stop. Thank you for sponsoring us tonight. And that concludes event 14. We now move on to event 15, the men's 500-meter freestyle. For Oak Ridge, in lane 2, we have John Millett, and in lane 4, we have Dylan Hodge. And they're off. Looks like the pad that they show the lanes on, actually, they got dropped in the water in lane 5. Yes, it has, the water's a little ripply. From where I'm sitting, though, you can see the board in the water. Wow. Luckily, they've got a second one, but I don't know if, I don't know what happens if they drop the second one in there. once again, as this event rages on, I'd like to thank some more sponsors: the String Workshop, Violin Rentals and Sales, Expert Instrument Repairs, strings are our specialty, and Bud's Farmhouse Coffee, happiest place in Oak Ridge. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. As the event comes to an end, Lane 3 Hardin Valley grabs first. But Lane 4 Oak Ridge, that's Dylan Hodge, is able to get second. I just keep looking at the board and the. I just keep looking at the board in the water. That's I've always wondered what would happen if that happened. It's very. You get interesting little things happening sometimes. As our final swimmer closes on finishing the event, I have a sponsor we'd like to thank. That's Millborn Bakery. In cinnamon rolls, we trust. Thanks for sponsoring us tonight. Looks like a rescue operation is being performed to get the pad out of the water. It was a success. The pad has been saved.
But now on to the next event, which is... What is the next event? The women's 200 free relay.
We're now starting event 17, as Christian said. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Shea, Beatty, Samsel, and Wooten. And in lane 4, we have Ozcan, Sherry, Kendall, Stager. And in lane 6, we have Delmal, Perez, Bursch, and Thornton. And the second swimmer is in for Oak Ridge, lane 4. And the third swimmers are in for lane 3 and 4 simultaneously. Lane 3 and 4, neck and neck right now. Final swimmers are in. Lane 4 just slightly ahead, but lane 3, neck and neck. This is going to be a very close finish. Looks like lane 3's got the lead, and lane 3 is able to pull out first place. Lane 4 Oak Ridge just behind them. As our final swimmers come in, that concludes Heat 1 of this event. In Heat 2, in lane 4, we have Samsel, Martin, Toth, and Foy McDaniel. Actually, I stand corrected. We have Martin, Samsel, Toth, and Foy McDaniel. And they're off. This appears just to be an Oak Ridge swimmer. As these swimmers do a time trial of sorts, I have some more sponsors I'd like to thank. Knox Graphics and Signs. You think it, we can ink it, and Grove Indoor Storage, the friendliest storage facility in town. And the final swimmer is in for Oak Ridge as they take to the water. Christian, do we have a word from our sponsors?
Yes, I would like to thank Cecilia Pizza and Grill, best Italian, Mediterranean, and Indian cuisine. Thank you so much for sponsoring us.
As our final swimmer comes in, that concludes event 17. We now move on to event 18, which is the men's 200-meter freestyle relay. For Oak Ridge in lane 4, we have Ryan, Vanetta, Vo, and Sutton. And in lane 7, we have Q Delmau, Blanco, Greenhow, and C. O'Neill. Lane 7, once again, being our middle school swimmers. And they're off. Lanes 3 and 4 quickly outswimming Oak Ridge lane 4. 3 and 5. Lanes 3 and 5 quickly outswimming lane 4. And the second swimmers are in for lanes 3 and 5. Lane 3 has a sizable lead. Oak Ridge lane 4 is going to have a lot of ground to make up if they want to get back in this race. Banana for Oak Ridge making up some time, but the third swimmers are now in for lanes 3 and 5. Third swimmer now in for Oak Ridge. This is Bo. And the final swimmer is in for Hardin Valley lane 3. And the final swimmer is just now in for Oak Ridge. And Hardin Valley is able to grab first. Can Oak Ridge try and come back and get second? Unfortunately not. Hardin Valley lane 5 grabs second. Oak Ridge lane 4 claims third. Oak Ridge started out strong, but Hardin Valley is definitely now putting it on them in the back 9. As we move into our final 6 events, Oak Ridge is going to need to play almost perfect. They're off. We are now on to event 19, the women's 100-meter backstroke. For Oak Ridge in lane 2, we have Sydney Oscan. In lane 4, we have Rosalie Windham. In lane 6, we have E. Delmau. This is a multi-heat event. Looking like lane 3 just barely ahead. Windham in lane 4. In lane 3, close there at the end. And as our final swimmers come in, that concludes Heat 1. We now move on to Heat 2. In lane 2, we have Beatrice Shea. In lane 4, we have Alice Perez. And in lane 6, we have Zoe Beatty. And they're off. Lane 2, Oak Ridge starting to pull ahead. Of course, this is all Oak Ridge swimmers, so this is once again just a time trial. As this event is underway, I would like to thank one of our sponsors, Patriot Talent Solutions, veteran-owned IT staffing company. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. With that, Heat 2 is concluded. We now move on to Heat 3, which will be our middle school swimmers. We have in lanes 2, 4, and 6. In lane 2, we have Brennan Toth. In lane 4, we have Olivia Foy McDaniel. And in lane 6, we have Gretchen Grubb. Of course, they are swimming the 50-meter backstroke. And they're off. Once again, this is all Oak Ridge swimmers, so this is a time trial. But more, since it's our middle school swimmers, this is just a practice run. Because, I guess you could say the Maryville meet was very special because that was the first time a lot of the middle school swimmers were like in head-to-head, like head-on contact with swimmers their age. In most events, in most meets, the middle schoolers, this is just practice so they can build up to the high school level. And of course, they are doing a great job at it. And that concludes event 19. We now move on to event 20, the men's 100-meter backstroke. For Oak Ridge, in lane 2, we have Quint Venata. In lane 4, we have Andrew Cho. And in lane 6, we have William Shin. There is a second heat to this event. And they're off. Lane 4, Oak Ridge off to a quick lead. That is Andrew Cho. And Oak Ridge, lane 4, Andrew Cho able to grab first place. Hardin Valley grabs second. And it's a close finish, but I think Oak Ridge, lane 2, might have been able to grab third. Too close to tell, though. As our final swimmer comes in, that concludes Heat 1. We now move on to Heat 2, which is once again middle school swimmers. We have in lane 2, Cassius Blanco, and in lane 4, Parker Grubb. Once again, swimming the 50-meter backstroke. And they're off. As this event draws to a close, I'd like to thank some more of our sponsors, East Tennessee Orthodontics, our Smiles Light Up East Tennessee. As well, we'd like to once again thank Fab 5 Designs. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. We now move on to event. And in lane 4, we have Mason Fisher, and in lane 6, we have Charlie Burge. Once again, there is a second heat to this event. Prince, lane 4 is pulling ahead. Of course, that is Mason Fisher. And Mason Fisher is able to grab first place for Oak Ridge. Looking like Hardin Valley lanes 3 and 5 are going to be grabbing second and third, respectively.
But it looks like lane 2 was able to grab third for Oak Ridge.
As our final swimmer comes in, that concludes Heat 1. We now move on to Heat 2. Once again, middle school swimmers. We have for Oak Ridge in lane 2, Lila Martin. In lane 4, Gracie Saunders. And in lane 6, Michaela Coons. Actually, it appears it's just lanes 2 and 4 swimming tonight. So that is Lila Martin and Gracie Saunders, and they are swimming the 50-meter breaststroke. With this event underway, I would like to thank some more of our sponsors, namely Juan's Tacos, authentic Mexican food, and Ski and Scuba Center. Dive, dive, dive. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And that concludes event 21. We now move on to event 22, the men's 100-meter breaststroke. For Oak Ridge, we have in lane 2, Robert Vo. In lane 4, Colin Sutton. In lane 6, Santiago Acevedo. And in lane 7, Chase Ryan. There is a second heat to this event. And they're off. Looks like lane 3, Hardin Valley, pulling ahead. It is like a three-way head-to-head tie between lanes 3, 4, and 5. It is like every movement is almost simultaneous, but lane 3 is pulling ahead. Lane 4 is just now slightly behind lane 3. We're starting to overlap, and it is, I would say it is too close to call who got first there. It was definitely between lanes 3 and 4. As our final swimmers come in, I'd like to thank some more sponsors. The Christina Branham Coldwell Banker and Jim Henry and the Southern Bliss Boutique. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And that concludes Heat 1 of Event 22. We now move on to Heat 2. Once again, middle school swimmers. In lane 2, we have for Oak Ridge, Quentin Delmal, and in lane 4, Christian Acevedo, swimming the 50-meter breaststroke. As this event draws to an end, I would like to thank two more sponsors. That is the Lisa Moss Pottery, Awaken Your Inner Artist, and the Knoxville Pharmacy. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. With event 22 drawing to a close, we now move on to our final two events of the night, the 400-meter freestyle relay. Of course, we start off with event 23, the women's 400-meter freestyle relay. For Oak Ridge, we have in lane 4, Stager, Wyndham, Hodge, and Fisher. And they're off. It's neck and neck. Lane 3 starting to pull ahead. Lane 3 holds the lead right now, starting to pull ahead of Steger in lane 4. Lane 3 touches back, gets their second swimmer in. Lane 4 touches back, gets their second swimmer in. That is Windham for Oak Ridge. Lane 3's got a sizable lead right now. Can Windham cut into that? And the third swimmer is in for Hardin Valley. The third swimmer for Oak Ridge, lane 4, right behind her. And it looks like lane 4 is starting to catch up. That catching up starting to diminish. And the final swimmer is in for lane 3, Hardin Valley. Final swimmer in for Oak Ridge, lane 4. This is Fisher. If anyone's going to make up that lead, make up the divide, that's going to be Fisher. It's going to be close, but I do think that lane 3 has just grabbed first place. And Oak Ridge will grab second as the final swimmer is in for Hardin Valley lane 5. As the final swimmer for Hardin Valley lane 5 starts to undergo her lap, I would like to thank one of our final sponsors, being Pinnacle Land Surveying. Let us survey your land. Thank you so much for sponsoring us tonight. And this concludes event 23. We are now moving on to event 24, the men's 400-meter freestyle relay. For Oak Ridge, that is in lane 4, Sukoff, Brown, Hodge, and Cho. This is the final event of the night. Oak Ridge absolutely needs a first place here. It's close. Lane 3's got the lead, but lane 4 right on his tail. Say they might even be even. Lane 4 pulling ahead now. Sukoff touches back, and Teus Brown is in the water for his 4th event of the night. He has placed first place for Oak Ridge in every event he has participated tonight. Not much of a lead, though. Usually in this event, Oak Ridge is able to get a win because Teus builds a huge lead, and Hardin Valley has to spend the rest of, and their opponents have to spend the rest of the event chipping away at the lead that Brown gave them. Of course, the 3rd swimmer is in for Oak Ridge. That is Hodge. I think Brown might have been able to do it. He might have been able to provide a big enough lead. The swimmer in lane 3 is catching up with him, though. Hodge on his final lap. And he is heading back. Hodge touches back. Oak Ridge's final swimmer is in. This is Cho. Can Cho bring it in? He's the closer. Can he grab first place in this event for Oak Ridge? This is going to be close. Final swimmer in for Hardin Valley in lane 5. Cho's got the lead. Lane 3 is on his tail. And Cho pull it in. He's closing in, and Cho is able to grab a first place for Oak Ridge in event 24. As our final swimmers hit the water, I would like to thank Screening Solutions LLC once again, background investigation specialist. Thank you to everyone who sponsored us tonight. As our final swimmer comes in, this concludes the Oak Ridge Wildcats versus the Hardin Valley Hawks swim meet. Started out with a strong Oak Ridge at the beginning, but Hardin Valley chipped away in the back half. This is most definitely going to be a close meet. As always, though, thank you so much for coming out tonight. We're going to be going on winter break, but we will be back in the new year for more swim meets. As always, I've been John Harris here with
Christian Rosas Rodriguez.
and thank you so much for coming out and have a great Christmas and other holidays. See you next time.